full blessing. So happy birthday one more time to you, Priscilla Dede Agedam of KJB Health Center. This is from your husband and your children. If it's your birthday as well, happy birthday. Know that you're loved and cherished. Senior Bright up here, good morning to you. And also to you, Robert Coleman. Grateful. The Daily Analyst says Dr. Oting has received key to Strong Crest. That's good news there. 2020 presidential election petition. Supreme Court shoots down Mohammed's 12 interrogatories for the EC. Also, panic as COVID detours to Top Guns. Joshua Shremeza, former National Security Coordinator, has gone to be with the Lord. Nana Benyin Pratt, senior in the IPR, Alaji Oti Boateng as well. They all fall for the coronavirus. Stop Electrochem. That's what someone is saying there from a mining song of salt. The government edge. And Fremont Sayopari, Lord Comey, and others retain post in Akufo-Addo's second term. Also, Ghanaian Times at the New Year school, government is set to procure COVID-19 vaccines, begins vaccination next 6 months, President said. And Ghana Health Service intensifies testing, contact tracing to prevent spread of COVID-19 variant. Also, U.S. President-elect Joe Biden takes office today. Ongoing election petition, Supreme Court tosses Mohammed's motion, 12 questions that he sought to ask the Electoral Commission to confirm or otherwise. Well, it's been thrown out. Daily Graphic, government will import safe COVID-19 vaccine, according to President speaking at the New Year school. Also, election petition, Supreme Court dismisses Mohammed's application and President reduces ministries to 29. Defeated ministers won't be reappointed. Comes with a photo of Barbara Otinjesi, former MP for Pristia Honi Valley, also who was a minister for tourism. Also, Professor Jan Bafo, MP for Wenchi, who was a minister for planning. Alhaji Abubakar Sadiq Boniface, who was an MP for Medina. He was at the vice president office as a full minister, by the way. Prior to that, he had been Zongo Development Minister. And also, Haji Alima Mahama is a former local government minister. By the way, she's part of the presidential transition team. We're seeing their pictures here, indication that they may not get a second bite at being ministers. The BNFT 5th edition of Beverages Awards launch. Nominations open. Old age poverty crisis looms as 70% of active workforce fall outside pension bracket. Also, single spines tango to be settled by end of Q1. That's Dr. Edward Kwapon, CEO of Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Good morning to you, Lankra, as well. Over-reliance on FDIs undermines the African Continental Free Trade Agreement rules of origin. The Daily Guide. COVID vaccines coming. President hints. And judges dismiss Mohammed's 12 questions. Nana picks 85 ministers, cuts off 7 ministries. Kumasi Markets plan rotational system. Osei Sibe entry is the MCE. Morning, sir. It is saying. The Finder newspaper, COVID-19 vaccine committee completes work, according to President Akufo-Addo. Also, arrest of the Finder journalist, absurd and without legal basis. Martin Kpebu is a lawyer. Mohammed's application for EC to answer questions dismissed. And second-term ministers will not exceed 85. 29 ministries, president to release list before weekend. Ministers, deputies who lost seats are out. Doesn't mean Okoboy will not make health minister, because the voice out there says he deserves to be made health minister. Will he not? Will he? We find out later. TEU suspends nationwide industrial action. Opare Duncan to act as national security coordinator. And Chinese medical team treats over 4,000 Ghanaian patients. In studio with me is lawyer Redu. And also on Zoom will be Dr. Edu Jemfi. He is the head of the Political and History and Political Science Department, beg your pardon, of the KNUST. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Counsel, how are you doing?
I'm great.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I mean, you look great.
I'm learning from you. Doc, how are you doing? Good morning.
Good morning, my brother. I hope you are doing great.
I am alive. I enjoyed the song before now, so I'm excited about everything. Now, let me begin the conversation with you, Lawyer Redu. But first, just to run by you and tell you that the issues we're talking about will be discussed extensively later with Bellamundi, only to say that most of the private schools and the international schools are open, but they are doing virtual learning. And guess what? the children of the people who ask that your children go to school without the PPEs, who are playing hanky-panky with the PPEs, are those who have their children in there. Your child is not in there. Think properly before you start shouting NDC and MPP. Council, let me begin this conversation with you. Yesterday, we saw Lawyer Chachuchikata on his feet in court.
Yes, our venerable Chachu.
And then we saw Akutuampa
and Mr. Menuvo
and Mr. Menuvo as well.
Yes.
They were talking plenty. What exactly was happening?
Well, these are very senior and seasoned members of the bar, and whatever they say would definitely carry some substance. There was an application by Mr. Chachuchikata to have some questions served on the Electoral Commission for answers. I mean, these are normal applications we often see in courts.
Okay.
And the main idea behind such application is to narrow down issues or bring some sort of clarity to the issues for determination by the courts. And as it was expected, I mean, it was opposed by the lawyer for the EC, Mr. Menuvo.
First respondent.
Yeah, the first respondent. And lawyers for the second respondent also opposed it. And at the end of the day, in the use of their discretion, the panel or the judges decided that it is not something we're going to allow. So they dismissed the application and set today for the various issues to come up for them to do what we call case management. So it was a good day in court. I mean, we would have to give it to the lawyers who appeared in court, and we would have to commend them. I mean, the exchanges were good. It was advocacy at its highest, and I'm sure in the coming days you're going to see more.
I see. Doc, I know you also have a legal background. Share with us what your thoughts are, what happened yesterday in our part. Well, I'm told that Doc is off at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Well, so what does it mean going forward today? Today the court is reconvened at 9:30.
Yes. The courts presided over by the Chief Justice asked the parties to file their memorandum of issues before 9:30 today, for them to appear before the court for what we call case management. This is where there's a consensus as to the direction of the case, as to the witnesses, as to anything concerning the case for a firm date of trial to be given to the parties to prepare for trial. As we speak, I heard yesterday that the lawyers for the second respondent filed their memorandum of issues. I have not heard about the issues filed by the lawyers for the petitioner, but I'm sure, I mean, considering the lawyer, Chachuchikata, Mr. Lita, I mean, solid team, I'm sure they know what to do, and we have to have it at the back of our minds that, I mean, every lawyer goes to court with a strategy.
Right.
So whatever they do is backed by their strategy.
Okay.
So sometimes we should be quick in drawing conclusions and passing all comments, because every lawyer has a strategy when he goes to court.
Okay.
For all you know, what played out in court yesterday was part of a strategy by counsel for either the petitioner or it happens in court a lot. So let's just be a bit patient with the lawyers in court. I'm sure as seniors as they are, they know what they are doing.
Okay.
So we shouldn't be judgmental. We shouldn't be quick in condemning or, I mean, laughing at people, because motions or applications before courts, it could go either way.
Okay.
Your motion could be granted, your motion could be dismissed. It doesn't take anything from you. It's just that at that particular point, the judges do not agree with you.
Okay.
And it doesn't make you a bad lawyer. It doesn't make you somebody who is not good with the law. It is just that at that particular moment, they never found favor with the position you had taken.
I see that there's a new one, request to inspect documents.
Yes,
as well, the 2012 president.
Yes.
Again.
It is also a normal happening in court. I mean, where if somebody has original custody of particular documents, you could apply to court to grant you that leave to have those documents discovered. I mean, discovered means you could have physical access to them, you could be supplied to you, because you may have copies, but you may want to, for reasons best known to the lawyer applying, to have them given to you by the person who has original custody. So these are normal happenings in court. And then again, it could be shut down by the court. It doesn't make anybody a bad lawyer. It happens in court. I mean, you send applications to court, you believe so much in your application, you get all your authorities, you go and the judge says, well, this is what you say, but for me, per my use of discretion, this is what I think we should go for. Because the final say is with them.
It is with them. Yes. Dr. Didion, if you welcome back, I know that you also have a law background. What did you find yesterday in court? Hello, Doc. Wow,
But if you can repeat.
Well,
if you can repeat the question.
Right? I'm saying that we also know you have a law background. The happenings in court yesterday, what can you share? Oh, it's tough stuff there. We can seem to let me begin the other conversation with you while we wait to work our Doc's line properly. So
okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. This was what we were talking about, technology.
Okay, you wanted me to comment on the court?
That's right. That's right.
Yes, I think clearly, yes, it's an atmosphere country with the rule of law. And I believe that the justices who sit within the courts of Ghana, from the lowest court to the superior courts, including the Supreme Court, which is the zenith of the courts in the land, are individuals and persons with proven character and integrity. And then they come to the table with, I believe, with clean hands and understand the law, and the law lies within their bosom to give judgment and also to serve the interest of the state. As a matter of fact, the party that sent the matter to the apex court and also the justices who sit on the court, I believe that have a responsibility, and what came out is the basis of our rule of law. It's within the remit of what we've all decided to function therein as a people and as a state. We cannot decide to turn to the left or right. Our interest is to ensure that the laws of the state would work, and the rules that govern these laws, as a matter of fact, should be allowed to prevail. And so far as there is no doubt about fairness, so far as there is no doubt about the fact that this liberal democracy that we are practicing is indeed allowing every individual or groups or persons to have their say in court. And for that matter, where the laws of the land and the justices of the court are unfettered and incumbent to do their jobs, I believe that we are all in good business, and therefore we can only hope for the best and anticipate that going forward we can build on all the other tenets that come with it. And so for me, at the end of the day, it is Ghana that is winning, however we want to look at it. But the matter is presented before the court of competent jurisdiction. We believe that those who are there and those who are seeing to the application of the law understand what they are doing, and those who have petitioned exactly would also want to push for what they deem fit within the scheme of things, especially within the remit of the law. And so let us see how it comes out as the days unfold, and how they are going to turn things around, among other things.
I see. So let's move away from that quickly. We're getting indication that second term of ministers will be announced shortly. Yesterday, Parliament constituted the Appointments Committee, 13 members on each side, 26 in all. And now we're told that the ministries will be reduced to 29. 7 of the ministries will be yanked off. We will not exceed the 85 number for ministers. How does that come to you?
Several individuals have complained that, look, the government of the day, especially the first term of the president, we saw some number of ministers. Others believe that they could have merged some ministries and better still also reduce the numbers. I think the question is how much is spent from the nation's purse from the activities of ministers and ministries. Are they efficient enough to deliver? Do we necessarily need multiple ministries and sector ministers for us to be able to serve the state? We need to also compare that with several jurisdictions in Africa and other advanced jurisdictions. I think what is important is that the Chief Executive Officer of Ghana, the President, should be interested not only in creating ministries and also merging ministries. He should be interested significantly to appoint individuals who can be able to deliver and to work with the directors of these ministries. I believe that there are a lot of technocrats in these ministries who have roles to play to support the sector ministers. Unfortunately, when appointments and appointees are largely loyalists, and sometimes, for a better want of a right word, foot soldiers, and sometimes cronies, bootlickers, and all the other persons you can name, then we have a challenge. And so we should be interested in seeing a country that is being driven by clear-cut objective. The president should have something he aims to achieve. And he believes that with these number of ministers, with these ministries, he should be able to achieve set goals. And then he should be interested in appointing set persons who are not only loyalists, but individuals who have who come to the table, for a better want of a right word, with some technocratic arrangement where they can deliver and also are willing to work with the technocrats within the ministries, unfortunately. And I think that's where we have a crisis. It seems to me that appointments and persons who take positions sometimes is all about political clout and power and authority, and riding in big cars and all that. I think we should have individuals who are willing to be on the ground and are willing to deliver home the public good. And that is what Ghana is looking for. I said the last time that for the MPP to remain significant the next 4 years, with this kind of abysmal performance, they should be interested in really bringing, individuals who are round pegs, fitting into round holes, square pegs, fixing, into square holes. We need not have individuals who just need employment or who have to be hired by any means necessary because a certain chief, a certain friend, a certain relative, or a certain party person is pushing that person should be positioned. I think that is an insult to our democracy, and it does not augur well to the kind of development we anticipate. And that would really be quintessential Africa.
So yesterday, the official release from the presidency dated the 19th of January, I beg your pardon, 2021. I seem to be very fast to getting into the year. The President Akufo-Addo makes appointments to his office. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has made the following appointments to his office for the second term. Honorable Akosua Fremont Pare is the Chief of Staff. She was in the past. She's been retained. Nana Bedietu Asante is the Secretary to the President. He was in the past. He's been retained. Mercy Deborah Kakari is the Secretary to Cabinet. Brigadier General Emmanuel Otri is the National Security Advisor. Saratu Atta, PA to the President. Emmanuel Adumwa Bosman, that's a new one, Deputy Chief of Staff. Fawaz Aliu is the Deputy Chief of Staff, that's also a new one. Lord Comey is Director of Operations. Eugene Ahin is Director of Communications. Sam Ellis is Director of Personnel. Dr. Isaac Usu-Mensah, a new one as well, is Director of Research. Koi Suman is Legal Counsel to the President. Michael Oforiatta is Director for ECOWAS and Regional Integration. These are the people. Last time we spoke, you said no family and friends, no bootlickers. What do you say? What does this list tell you? Is the president listening?
I think the president is making an effort to add new persons to the list, and at least you can see some technocrats here and there, individuals who have served in some respective capacities in the past elsewhere, who are coming to the table with some degree of expertise. For example, aspects of security, aspects of research, director of research. I believe that such individual would have played a role, if you like, behind the scenes, leading up to the elections. I believe that's my contemplation anyway.
Well, so just the doctor in question, who's director of research, is a man at the center of those controversial researches that suggest that the president, the MPP, would win the election. The same research that the University of Ghana Faculty of Political Science has said that, well, they are not in support of that research.
No, that is the point I'm making. That so such individual would have been behind the scenes and just confirm that he played a role, at least, to make some projections and also to try to, if you like, test scientifically what will be the fate of the MP.
So are you saying this is a thank you? Are you saying this is a thank you to the good doctor, a researcher?
No, it dovetails into the fact that party persons are still given opportunity to serve within the party or within the government today. So party persons are given the opportunity. However, I want to believe that this party person is coming in to serve some specific role. Whether that role is going to inure to the benefit of the state or to inure to the benefit of the party in government, that is what I believe we must begin to decipher.
Okay, thank you. Council, I'll put the same question to you. This is the list. The last time, and the entire nation has been concerned about family and friends governance.
Yes, of course.
This is the list as we have a chief of staff all the way to director of ECOWAS and regional integration. What does it tell you?
Well, I agree with the doctor to some extent, but I am a result-oriented person.
Okay.
I mean, I believe in performance. I mean, I don't necessarily believe in numbers. So if it would take 5 people to give me some sort of achievement which would have impact on my role as a leader, I would choose 5. If it would be 70 people, I believe that whichever number we choose, we should, at the end of the day, ask ourselves, what were their performances? What was the result? Were they able to achieve anything? What were their targets? Were they achievable? If you're able to do that, then we can put it in perspective as to whether number 13, number 14, number 15 was the required number. Because this is a president who has a nation to govern. And in his wisdom, if it decides to give this number of appointments, he may have the reason for giving the appointment. Of course, it would have to be a reasonable number. But looking at these numbers for a presidential office, 13 of them, I think it's quite a good number. And I only hope and believe that, because the president's office is such a huge office. And I mean, if you look at the list here, you could see that some of them have been maintained. Because, for instance, number 9, Juji Nahi was with the president.
That's right.
So Kowasuman
was there as
with
well.
the president. Sarah Tuata was there.
Yeah.
What's his name? Lord Kome
Right.
was there. So at least there's some consistency. So
Nana Bedi Swasanti was there. Honorable Fremont Parry was there
yes,
as
it
well.
goes to tell you that at least they met the expectation of the president. That is why they have been maintained.
Okay.
So I am of the firm belief that in the wisdom of the president, I think the appointments is not just about the numbers, but the appointments should be about what they could achieve for us all. Because at the end of the day, we spend taxpayers' money in paying appointees and all that. If you appoint 5 people and they underperform, it affects all of us.
How do you measure what you're saying now
Yes.
to what the president said in the past? For example, that he mounted a stiff defense
Yes, he did.
for the numbers that he had appointed, and said because of the quantum of work that was there to be done, he is moving, with such numbers.
110 at the time.
Dr. Edujemfi last week mentioned that the performance of the first administration was abysmal, and the electoral record will show that if you had 1 million votes, it is halved, and you had 169 MPs, and now it's reduced to 137. That in itself shows that the people have a certain verdict on you. Do you then get the indication that the reduction of the numbers means that the president thinks he has done well, which is why he needs fewer numbers to go on and finish up the work he started?
You see, 2016 or 2017, it was his first term.
Right.
He was now coming to office.
Right.
So definitely he has the benefit of hindsight now. I mean, the president should be informed by the happenings of the previous administration and his appointees. That is what has probably culminated into his decision to reduce the numbers. But I believe that, he has been at the helm of affairs. He knows, at least he has some level of experience going into this administration. That is why he will decide that, okay, initially I had this number of ministers. It didn't work out for me. The public outcry wasn't good. The verdicts of the people show that probably they were dissatisfied with the performances of some of my appointees. That is why if you look at the communique,
Right.
it says that the previous ones who could not win their seats, it means that there was some disaffection.
Well, those are speculations that's happening.
They may not.
Yes, they may not make it.
Yes, so
into the
it
new
gives
one.
an indication that at least the president, to a large extent, knows what he's doing, because if you're a minister and an MP, at least there were opportunities for you to not to lose your seats, in quotes. Of course, I mean, the decision to vote lies with the people, but you are put in a place of influence as a minister and a parliamentarian. You should be able to at least get your people to give you back the nod to parliament.
Right.
If you are not able to do that, then we could safely say, to some extent, you underperformed. That is why you could not impress your people to get you back. But I have always maintained that results is very important than numbers.
So, for example, I'm seeing that Eugene Ahin, who's
Eugene
Director of Communication, used to have about 2 or so deputies. Now he's a lone ranger.
Yes.
In this instance, I don't know what you're thinking.
That is why I initially said for the president's office, 13 is quite a reasonable number.
It is.
I mean, it's quite because this is
maybe this is the first batch, because we have seen a similar thing before. I mean, if you cast your mind back to 11th of January 2017, when the first set of announcements were made, they were made in batches.
Yes.
And then by the time we realized, we had gone past the 120 mark.
But I think that the president has learned some lessons. You see, you do not take the Ghanaian. I mean, for when the Ghanaians speak, when the Ghanaian speaks, he knows what he's saying. Because you see, at a point in time, the president even had to come out to give a justification as to the number of ministers.
That's right.
That should tell you that they appreciated the backlash or the response from the people. And now going into his second term, he has come that there'll be a reduction in the size. Definitely, it means that's why I initially said he has advantage of hindsight now.
Right.
Because if you had to come to defend the numbers, then it means that some way, somehow, even to you, if you were given the opportunity again, you may not go with that number. But I will still maintain that I look at performance. I am a result-oriented person. If 5 people will help me achieve a target, I will go for five. If 10 people will help me achieve it, because at the end of the day, I'll be measured by what I achieve and not the number of people I use in achieving that particular goal.
Okay, so Doc, I'll come to you now. We had in the past administration Ambassador Plenipotentiary. You remember him, Dr. Edward Nasigri Mahama of the PNC. He was there. He was given an appointment. We saw the other nomenclature was Ambassador at Large, and we saw very little of him in the last administration. And then we also had the practice of somebody being a substantive minister, like Boniface Abubakar Sadiq, like Catherine Afeku, who were yanked off the ministries where they were and placed at the presidency. So Honorable Alhaji Boniface was, for example, a full minister, but he was at the office of the vice president. And mind you, the vice president had office staff like the president. So the questions were that, what is a full minister paid with all the taxes, getting all the perks of a minister, doing at the office of the vice president? What is a full minister paid with the taxpayers' money, doing at the presidency? What specificity of work were they doing? What do you want to see going forward? For example, if a minister is yanked off, should they be taken to the presidency and given a chair there?
I think we should be very cautious. I mean, as a state, and we should be interested in development. Appointments must tie into development. And I agree with my brother. It is important that we look at goal setting, standard setting, and then we achieve those things based on those standards. Yes, you can see that in the previous administration, it was just some appointments to add to color and to also create some impressions. And largely, it was clear that the president at a point in time lost control over some of the critical areas he really wanted to look at. I think that ministers should not be appointed on the basis that the person is just a party functionary or loyalist or has been in the party for a very long time. It is also important that we don't just appoint ministers because we want to send a certain political message to the world that Ghana is united and we can cross to pick a flag bearer of a political party or a candidate of a political party and bring him into our fold. Such, if you like, unnecessary coloration of our governance is, for me, for better want of the right word, unnecessary, and it is not needed at this time of the day. The critical point we need to look at around this time is that, and you said it, you hinted, is the president not going to turn around to add to the numbers?
Right.
Is he not going to gradually and, if you like, systematically expand his frontiers? Because the chiefs have not started. In fact, indeed, there are puppet masters. There are party financiers. There are individuals who call the shot behind the scenes. And sometimes around this time, it is not nice being the president of Ghana at all. Because you might receive a phone call and you might not be able to say, I won't pick this call. It will be a direct call to the president's phone. And he dare not say he will not pick that call. These are the things that happen behind the scene. And it is not good to be the president around this time. But what I want to say is that because the people have given the party the mandate to rule, there is a social contract. The MPP government, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's government, has a responsibility. I agree with my brother. It's not only a question about numbers, it's a question about delivery. Right. It's a question about competencies. But it is quite disheartening if you parade party loyalists. For a better want of the right word, if you parade party foot soldiers at heart, even though outwardly, I mean, it's like the biblical scripture, which says that, I mean, we are like tombstones, like whitewashed, but inside you find skeletons.
Right.
You see, the individual has a certain pulchritude. You think the person is a gentleman. The person might have even some academic records to show. But inside, within the heart of the person, his charisma, his character, is a party for soda. And if you appoint that person into governance, into helping you rule the people, you will get nothing than an individual who behaves like someone who wears branded party t-shirt to join campaign and to shout over the rooftop. That's what we are likely to see. And so the president must be interested to really come around to know that it's a serious business.
Okay, so Doc, hold it. Council has a disagreement. Yes.
I kind of have a little bit of a disagreement with you about the appointment of party faithfuls and loyalties. I mean, there cannot be a disconnect between government and party.
Should they be qualified to be appointed?
It should be
or they should just be party fanatics?
No, it should be about competence. If he is the #1 party supporter and he has the competence to do that, I think he could be appointed. Because you see, whenever there is a disconnect between a ruling party and the government, it affects even the performance of government.
Okay.
Because you would have a president having to solve an internal party wrangling and also playing his role as a president managing the country. So for me, if appointments would ensure that there is some quiet within a ruling party and the government, which will give government enough concentration to work. And the key word here is competence.
Competence,
I mean,
okay.
The description of foot soldier and all those things, I think we are not being fair to party activists. Because you see, at the end of the day, it would have to take a political party to sponsor a candidate to be president.
Right.
And there are people who would have to play certain roles and functions within the political party. So if they achieve their goal of sponsoring a candidate to be president, I don't think it is out of place for them to be given recognition in appointment.
So both of you, sorry, Doc.
Let's add something here.
You both agree that competence is key.
It's very key.
You both agree that results is necessary.
Very much so.
And you both agree that it doesn't matter the number. If you get the right number to deliver on the quality, we are fine.
Yes.
But where the government itself and its functionaries and those who have been appointed continually go on praising themselves, telling you what they have done. Results tracker, we have done 79, we have done 78, 72. And the people for who they are working say, we cannot feel what you are doing. Then that partisanship comes in, correct?
Yes, I do appreciate the point you're making. But of course, at the end of the day, the polls will give you out. If you are just singing praises for work not done, when you go to the polls probably in the next 3 or 4 years, the verdict will be there for everybody to show. I was only making a point that in situations where there's a disconnect between the ruling party and the government, it is always problematic for the nation. Because the concentration of the people in government is not 100%. They act as government functionaries, but they need to go back to sort out internal wrangling. So I am of the view that, in fact, I also disagree with Doctor, even if the president would have to cross over to, say, NDC, CPP to make an appointment. Because at this particular moment...
No, that is not what I said. That is not what I said.
Okay, so what did you say?
Okay, so I said that I mean, the president need not, that's what I said, do that, because it is just unnecessary coloration of the whole process. It doesn't add to anything.
Are we not talking about all-inclusive governance? We've been talking about all-inclusive governance for God knows how long.
Yes, of course. But what I'm saying is that those appointments should be significant. They should add to the developmental agenda. It need not just be an issue of adding color. Okay. Because you are crossing to the other side to appoint.
Okay, so we tried. The
individual is coming from a different political party.
So we tried.
Wherever the person might be coming from.
Doc, sorry, we tried Alhaji Issa. You remember him? Sports Ministry. Yeah. We tried Dr. Papa Kwesi Indo. Remember? We tried Professor George Penny Hagan. Remember? We tried Martin Amidu. Remember? We tried Dr. Edward Nasiri Mahama.
That is why I've said that we don't have to do that, and that is the point I made from the word go.
Okay.
I said that it is not necessary to just cross to go over and pick someone just to add to color. You have to be interested in picking someone because you know the person has the capacity to deliver. Yes, historically, we have seen that such appointments have not really inured to the benefit of the state largely. But just to have some bit to say about the disagreement of my brother concerning the earlier pointers I made. Now, in the first instance, what I seek to say is that when you are choosing career in politics, you either choose to serve the political party or you would have an agenda to come to governance. Now, in several advanced jurisdictions, there are people who have chosen their path to build their political parties. And so it has been the case. They have served in the political parties and never came into governance. The truth is that the fact that you are able to galvanize support and you are able to bring your party to power does not mean that you can govern. And it is important we have to be able to strike the balance, to appreciate the fact that somebody can stand on the rooftop and shout or wear a branded t-shirt does not mean that that person can be in governance.
But where they are competent, where they are competent, for example, they are party people. They wear party colors and shout on top of their lungs. But they are competent also. Yes.
So I'm coming to that. So we need to have that balance. We know historically, I don't want to mention him because I don't want to attack the person of any individual, right? But the point I'm saying is that we need to know that there are certain individuals who are cut out to serve within the political parties. I have touched on ideological schools within the political parties. I've touched on the fact that the political parties must be interested in grooming leaders, raising people with the agenda of giving Ghana leaders who rule. And also within the political parties, leaders who will lead the party to political power and to also organize the party at the base, among other things. And so what I'm saying is that, yes, it is not only about competency, it's also about the fact that the individual is also a party person. I agree with my brother. Okay. However, it is not any party person who has credentials who shout on the rooftop that must be in governance.
I think that you both agree. You both agree on that point. Now, Doc,
yes, they should also,
should we be demanding, and I like the president's style of appointment. He calls out Dr. Edu Jemfi. He is a senior lecturer or head of department at KNUST. He has had A, B, C, and D experience. His expertise lies within blah, 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 blah. I'm taking him to this ministry because these are the problems I've seen with the ministry, and I want him to fix it like that. Some ministers have been at post for 4 strong years, and we saw very little reshuffle. Should we be demanding of the president to show us the terminal report, if you like, the resource slip of these ministers before he reappoints them, even though the president can hire and fire without explaining to us?
I think that there should be some degree of transparency, and if you permit me, to leverage on that. In the first instance, why would the president of Ghana appoint me from KNUST? It takes us back to the question my brother was unraveling about the fact that even though I'm not an MPP person, am I a sympathizer? He would ask that question.
Definitely.
And so I'm not behaving like an ostrich this morning. He would ask that question. The second question I believe the president would want to ask is that even if I'm not a loyalist, or better still, I'm not a sympathizer, does he believe that I come to the table with some capacity to deliver?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that ought to have been what he would look at in the first instance. But quite often, that is not what the party people look at. Mm-hmm. And that's where I've had issues and I've had problems. But if you look at the question of reshuffle,
okay,
sometimes reshuffles are done because some people must also have job to do. And if reshuffling are done on the basis of just changing team A for team B to come, so that party persons who play the role will have opportunity to also wear the jersey to play, then that is sinful and distasteful against the state. But in the second instance, what is relevant is that you do this reshuffle to allow for transparency, for the sun to shine. Especially, for example, you have picked some negatives, you have picked certain things happening within the part, within the ministry or the sector. You still believe that individual can deliver. Maybe this individual is not doing well in this area, but I want to reposition him.
Okay.
Or I have picked some feed here and there about that individual. Immediately you do the reshuffling, it gives you the opportunity to shine the light and to cross-check whether the individual really did some rot over there.
Okay, let's look at this scenario, for example, and put the information ministry in perspective. The information ministry started with Dr. Mustafa Hamid as minister. He had Kojo Oponkroma, Perio Kujato, and Amadou Kua as deputy ministers. And then Dr. Mustafa Hamid was moved out. Kojo was moved to the top. Around that same time, Pius Hajide and his minister had the Australian visa scandal. Pius was moved to the information ministry, swapped with Perio Kujato to the sports ministry. Honorable Dr. Mustafa Hamid was not a minister at that time because Kojo had taken over. Then he was swapped later on with Honorable Boniface Abubakar Sadiq, who was Zongo Development Minister. He becomes minister. Honorable Boniface goes to the presidency. So you see how the movements were done. Does it fall within the criteria you are talking about?
Not entirely. For example,
but it was done. This was done.
Let me give you an example. If you permit me, the information minister has done very well for his government, and I believe for Ghana largely. But Mustafa Hamid was equally doing well at post at the time, right? So there are other interesting scenarios we would want to discuss, and that's what I've tried to do this morning.
No, but I've given you the chronology of the movements, how the Ministry of Information started, how the Sports Ministry started, how Zongo Development Ministry started, how we moved people around, replaced others, and how we ended up making a full minister who had gone through vetting to be at the office of the vice president. We do not know what his specific role was.
It is because the central thesis of my argument is that party persons must be given positions. And for me, it is not proper.
Why?
When you don't need people to function in some capacity, you don't keep them there. You sack them. You are the president. You have the capacity to hire and to also fire.
Can I
feel that the person is no longer useful and needed to serve. You just make sure the person goes out, sit on the bench, or goes out there to serve in other capacity.
Okay, so
you don't need to just move the individual around for the sake of moving the person around.
Okay,
we should be interested.
Lawyer has a rebuttal. Quickly.
Lawyer, before you come in, let me learn. What is important is that are we able to get a credible accounting of what these individuals did in those respective capacities that they were positioned?
Okay.
For me, it is very important, and we need to know that.
Right, Council.
Doc, I think to make the statement that appointment of party persons are not proper without some good justification is not fair. Because you see, I have made this point over and over. Government or appointment should be a blend of technocrats and, of course, people in politics. But you don't expect the appointment of technocrats to sort of override the appointment of party persons. Because I have made this point that it is the party that sponsors the candidates. So why would the president forgo the people who have voted for him, who have campaigned for him, who have done all sort of stuff for him, to appoint, let's say, doctor because he thinks you have the expertise, because you think you have the knowledge? Bear in mind that it's about power. And it is about maintenance of power too if you're in government. So you have to appoint people who share your goals, because every political party has its own goals. And to achieve such goals, you need your members. Because there's no way a political party comes to power and the appointments are all non-party members just because doctor says that appointment of party persons are not proper.
No, but you see, again, counsel.
If you permit me,
okay,
I think that my friend is misconstruing everything.
No, that is what you said.
Yes, because
go
see, the point I'm making is that there are two schools of thought. And for me, it's empirical and scientific. And we need to have that discussion. That the fact that someone is able to bring a party to power does not mean that the person qualifies to be in government. And that point must be substantiated. It doesn't mean that he's a party person, he has joined campaign, he's brought the party to power, and therefore he must be in government. I disagree with you any day, because the fact that an individual is in government, he must be there in the first instance because he has the competencies to be there.
Definitely.
However, if the individual is also a party person, then it's even a plus, because the question of loyalty, the question of belonging, and all that comes into the scheme of things. 4 years ago, I was one of those persons who told the president, you cannot appoint without doing the loyalty litmus test. And so the question of loyalty is important. The question of belonging is important. But what I'm saying is that it is not just belonging. It is not just being a party person. And what I'm also saying is that it is not every party person that cuts out a career and end up in government. Your career might end with being a chairman of the party.
Thank you.
Or being a secretary of the party.
Thank you.
And we must understand that, if you allow me, there are ways political parties can work out to sponsor and support their party base. And such discussions could be left for another day. But so far as the governance of the state is concerned, it is not just a party affair. It's about the people, including all persons, manner of persons within the state, who have elected. And remember, it is not only the MPP that voted this party into office. And we have to look at the categorizations of individuals who go to vote. The floating voters, for example.
We will look at that. We will look at that later, Doc. Thank you. But Council, wrap up for me on this one. The president, I maintain, had a very unique style of appointing his ministers. He calls you, you stand by his side. He reads out your CV, your expertise, mentions the problem that's there to be solved, and tells you, go and fix that problem. And then he adds that Parliament should do it speedily so that you can start working. Should he maintain that style?
Yes, that was actually novel and great. I would love him to maintain that, because you see, like Doctor said, I mean, not everybody is into politics. I mean, the political parties may know their own, but those of us out there may not know the people the president is appointing. So it is always better to give us a fair idea, the person's competence and skills, and the person's history and background. Because even though being a minister is not entirely about having technocratic knowledge about the ministry, but we need to know the president, because if he has been at the helm of affairs, what was his track record? I mean, his man management or her man management skills, which are very important. So I think the president, if he would maintain that system for us, I'll be one happy person, because we need to know the persons he's appointing. We need to know their competences. We need to know, in fact, it even helps because it's sort of a disclosure. Because if they mention your name, at least we know that you are with this, you are with this, you are with this. So it is in itself a transparent way of getting appointment. And then I think if the president should go by that this term too, it would be something that with it.
So one of the key ministries, and this is my final one to you, one of the key ministries that the president had was the Ministry for Monitoring and Evaluation.
Yes.
Did you get the best out of that ministry? Would you want it maintained?
For me, no. I mean, for me, initially, I was of the view that I think at the time it wasn't too necessary, because you see, a minister in itself should be responsible for evaluating his ministry. He should be responsible for monitoring the activities within his ministry. So to set up a different unit to monitor such activities of appointees, for me, could have come under the responsibilities of the chief of staff,
right,
who would have access to all the ministers and from time to time call them to tell them about how she's monitoring the activities and all that. For me, I think that such duty should be given to the chief of staff.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Samuel Dujaim joined us on Zoom. And also, sorry about that, Lawyer Redu is a man here in studio. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. And enjoy the top of the morning. We will continue this discussion. I'll bring them back so we can look at party appointment, technocrats, the kind of voters that we had, and how that should influence who the president appoints. But Ambassador Sampiale says this one. Says, quite frankly, I agree with what the doctor on Zoom is advocating. The problem with political parties is that they place party loyalty too far over professional competence. The question is not that these parties do not have competent professionals. What they professionals lack is political godfathers. Thank God the president has woken up to the realities and is now in the mood to save the taxpayer from an overbloated government. However, I strongly disagree with the president abolishing the monitoring and evaluation portfolio. Question, did that ministry deliver? But thank you very much for watching. Bellamundi has a conversation on education. And again, I want to tell you, did you know that some schools are running virtual classes? And did you also know that the people playing political football with your child's PPEs, that they have brought it, but they don't know who to carry to the children, have their children in those schools that are doing virtual learning? Their children are safe at home. You should be speaking and asking questions.